Hello, tremendous leadership fans. This is one of my favorite days. You know what I'm about to say. It is another new release day here at Tremendous Leadership. And today I'm excited to announce the publication of our 37th, that's right, number 37 life-changing classic. And it is called Common Horse Sense from Will Rogers, 7 timeless tips for leaders and everyone else. And I am joined by two incredible guests. Is it Will Rogers? It might be. We have my dear friend Randall Reeder, who knew my father. I know him from the National Speakers Association a long time back. And Randall will tell you about his love of Will Rogers and how he represents him. And then we have the great granddaughter. You're looking at Jennifer's names like Rogers of Will Rogers. And guys, I am so excited to have you today.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Thanks so much. And again, for those of you that love our little life-changing classics, every time there's a great historical figure or somebody that I connect with that loves somebody that needs reintroduced to the public, we go ahead and do this. So when I partner with Randall and Jennifer, just very excited. My father loved Will Rogers. And speaking of Will Rogers has one famous quote. Well, he has many famous quotes where he talks about that the way a person really gets smarter is by reading great books and hanging out with great people. Who does that sound like? Charlie Tremendous Jones. And I can remember when he would say that quote about the people you meet and the books you read, he would go back and say, I got that inspiration from Will Rogers. So great to meet you guys. And Jennifer, I'm going to start off our questions with you. You ready?
Okay, go for
All right.
it.
So, as Will Rogers' great granddaughter, can I ask you what does it mean to see this in print in the life-changing classic series format?
It's really exciting for me because it's the first time I've ever published anything. And I've been a part of many projects, but the first time that I've ever actually seen something come together that, excuse me, that is in publication. So I'm so excited to say that this is my first publication.
I love it. And you are
Yeah.
welcome to the Tremendous Leadership Author
Well,
Canon.
thank you.
And you have been carrying the family legacy for decades. And we'll talk a little bit about the museum, the Ranch Foundation, Route 66. What moment most deeply connected you to Will as you're going across the generations?
Well, there's been a few over the years. I've been doing this now for a little over 20 years, and you just every day learn more and more and more about the man.
Mhm.
Putting myself in the presence of the volunteers of the museum and the ranch in Santa Monica, they're my inspiration, the docents and the staff, because they know so much about the man. And just when you think your plate is full, you run into somebody that teaches you something new that you never knew. And so I always feel a little closer to him each time I learn a little bit more.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until recently moving here to Oklahoma and living just a block away from the museum where Will and his wife Betty are interred. I mean, I see them on a daily basis, and it just makes me feel that much closer. Just every day I walk by and talk to him and say hi, and I hope I'm making you proud.
I'm sure I know you are. So, what happened 20 years ago? I mean, you're obviously in this legacy. Were there people, family members before you working in it? And what happened at the 20-year point where you said, hey, I need to go more into this?
Yes, my grandfather, well, there was always Will Jr. Will's had three children. He had Will Jr. and then Mary and then a little boy Freddie who passed and then my grandfather. And so Will Jr. and my grandfather were always family representatives. And then when my grandfather got older, it was passed down to my dad and my uncle. And then eventually just kind of I got pushed out there, but it was really back in 1991 with the Will Rogers Follies on Broadway. My grandfather took the entire family, there was 13 of us, to New York. And I sat there and I really didn't know much about Will Rogers at all. I really didn't. We were raised, my family was very humble about it. He was not the topic of conversation over dinner. And I just knew I wanted to learn more. And I got back to Bakersfield and went to my grandfather one day and said, I want to learn more.
Mm.
And he began taking me along with him. And I got to go to events and then eventually just kind of go into them by myself. And now here I am 20 years later, living in Oklahoma, carrying the torch, so to speak.
And I love that you talked about that it wasn't like put it out there, that he was humble. And as people read the book, they will really understand about the ups and downs. I mean, I reading about him and where he was on top of his game and then would lose stuff and just work his way back up. And
Yeah,
Betty telling him different things about, I love the outfit story about, hey, don't ever wear that. That's too loud and proud. But I love the fact that you are getting to know him more and more as
yeah.
a legacy holder. That's beautiful. So you guys share 7 timeless tips. Jennifer, which of the one really stood out for you with your generation and your context?
Well, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to read the book, but in my closing chapter, as I was answering these questions, and I would take them and Randall, and I would talk back and forth a little bit about it, and then I would just kind of go off on my own and sit and reflect on some of my answers. And I wasn't sure how to answer all of them to really touch a reader. But whatever it was, something came out in me and that closing chapter. And it was after it talks about the fire in California and losing the ranch. And that ranch has been a part of my life for so long.
Mm,
And to sit and watch it go up in flames and everything inside of it go, it's still extremely sensitive. I will never get over that. We worked so hard to to build it, to get to keep it alive in Will's name, and it's literally ashes. So I reflect quite a bit in that final chapter about how that affected me, and I think that that's probably the most important thing is I think it will touch young readers, old readers, every generation, because I'm, I'm middle-aged, but I have grandchildren, so I want to leave something so they know who he was. And it's hard. It's not easy nowadays. It's easier with the older generation. They remember him, but the younger generation has no idea. So hopefully they can read this. It's an easy read. It's a fun read. It's factual and they can carry it around with them and pull some quotes out
mhm.
and it's timeless, as we like to say. It's timeless.
Well, and that's why we call it life-changing classics, because if
Right.
you read it, it will change your life. It'll educate you, inform, and inspire. And as Jennifer alluded to, Randall did the first part of every chapter where he kind of
Yes.
does the historicity, the background, the quotes, the research, and then Jennifer has her comment at the end of each one. And for those of you that don't reflect, Randall and I first started talking about this at least 2 years ago, maybe 3 years
Mhm.
ago. So this project, but you always got to wait for the right timing to happen. But then this fire happened earlier on in the year. For those listening, 100 years from now, this is the year
Yeah.
2025, but earlier in the year, Jennifer, he had that piece of property in California, and you talk about that, and that was destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. I co-founded the foundation 20 years ago that supports Will Rogers State Historic Park. And so it's been my baby, literally. I mean, I was there on a weekly basis. I lived only an hour and 45 minutes from there. And I got so close with all the neighbors and the staff and, the neighborhoods around. I mean, the whole city's lost. I mean, it's one tragedy to lose a structure or a home, but you're talking about an entire city that is gone,
Hmm.
gone. I
Yeah,
mean, churches, schools, houses, grocery stores, gas station. It's just devastating. And it will
absolutely.
take years and years, and it will never be the same.
Right, right. Well, I appreciate that's how, and again, you'll read the book, but you'll get one of the lessons really goes
Yeah,
deep into that.
it
Because
was fun.
yeah, Will dealt with a lot of people. He had such a heart for people and the underdog or the disadvantage, and you see that throughout. He came from humble beginnings, like Charles, so he always had that radar for the humble beginnings and just loved on them. And that's
Yeah,
that's what Will did, and that's what you're continuing to do. So Jennifer,
thank you.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Let's talk to Mr. Will Rogers here in the present. Randall, you've been speaking as Will Rogers since 1966. When did you first realize you could step into his voice and his presence?
Oh my. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, around 1996 that a prominent speaker saw me at a convention and just said, "You got to be Will Rogers." Um, I got he made me go to Claremore to check out the museum. I was there a few weeks later and
Wow.
walking around for a couple of days. Everybody confirmed, yeah, I looked like Will Rogers. They assumed I was Will Jr. or one of the
Yeah.
family. And one of the family pointed out to me later, said, "Yeah, you've got the Will Rogers nose. So if you're going to look like somebody with a big nose, it's nice to pick out Will Rogers." So that's what got me started. It probably took 4 or 5 years of speaking. Of course, I was doing it part time with my regular job. And I began to get authentic and the feel, and I think people have started appreciating me more as Will Rogers. But it took a while.
Excellent. And he really never tried to be a leader, but was one of the most big influencers of people. What is the most challenging part of that? You're embodying an icon. What's the toughest part about that?
Toughest part is Will Rogers was a genius. So how do you pretend to be a genius when you're kind of middle of the road intelligence? So that's the toughest part.
Yeah.
But Will was such a great person. So it's easy to emulate him. You don't have to make excuses for things that he messed up in his life. So
Yeah.
from that standpoint, and he always used common horse sense. Wow,
Yes.
that made it easy.
Well, first of all, you're pretty smart. You know what I'm saying? But I love in it, he really was very industrious and creative and resilient. He'd try all these new things, but the fact that he could even take a brand and scale it to what he did and always look at these other opportunities about, well, I'm going to try that. Here's a first in a lot of places, or I'm going to record this, or I'll let you go into that. But I mean, that really was, he was quite the innovator.
Well, he took advantage of his opportunities.
Yeah. Boy, did he ever. Like I
He
said, he's a
started
great
out
definition of genius.
uh,
Yeah.
about 4 years old, a former slave man on the ranch started teaching the kids to do rope tricks, and Will stuck with it. So from the age of 4, he perfected that, and it was the roping that got him on vaudeville stages to start with. And I've made the comment many times: if that was all he had ever done, you wouldn't have heard of Will Rogers.
Right.
Uh, but he took advantage of opportunities. He was invited to make a movie, make
Hmm.
the silent movies. 1918, they moved to from New Jersey. Well, he was in New York City, but the movies moved from New Jersey to Hollywood.
Hmm.
So if you can imagine if the movies had stayed in New Jersey, what we might be watching. But anyway, that got him into movies. He was invited then to write newspaper columns. That started with a weekly article in 1922. Then the daily, what became known as daily telegrams, which appeared in newspapers 6 times a week. Now, these were short, but a couple of paragraphs usually. But just imagine writing a long article, maybe 1,000 words every week, and then writing 6 of these short things and sending them in by telegram. They were very timely. You had to
Yes, they
send them
were.
in
Yeah.
for the syndicate by about 4 o'clock Eastern time, and then it got into the newspapers the next day.
Hmm.
So Will was very timely.
Hmm. And
And
you
then the
continue
movies. The
this.
movies started talking, and
Yes.
that's when Will became a real star because that was his era. He was kind of mediocre. I know Jennifer would agree with this. In the silent movies, he was kind of a mediocre person. Now he did write the captions that went along the bottom of the screen and made them funny, but it was only when they movie started talking, and then he became the top paid, the most popular movie star in the country.
Unbelievable. And you still write these weekly columns in Will style. And again, it's so beautiful because wisdom is timeless. I love that you continue them in today's context. How do you stay true to Wit's wisdom, to Will Rogers' wit and wisdom, but actually show that, hey, it's completely relatable in this current
Uh,
era?
Yes, I've written, let's see, it's something like 1,260 some of them so far.
Wow.
Uh, my, I always include two or three quotes from Will Rogers. It's amazing. And Jennifer would know this. We can find things that Will wrote 100 years ago
Yes.
that still apply today.
Yes.
Uh, in terms of keeping it authentic, um, when I write something, if it, let's say it could be controversial, I think, would Will actually write this? Would he say it? Would he talk about it? And I think no, Will wouldn't do that. So, or he would do it in a different way. Then I don't include it. So
Perfect.
that's my goal is to make sure that I don't publish anything that Will would disagree with.
Well, I love that you're really defending the legacy and the DNA, but still bringing it to the next generation. So one of the things everybody knows about Will Rogers is just he spoke the truth, but in a way
Uh,
that got people to open up to laugh. We know humor is the great disarmer, and we've lost that today. You know what I'm saying? And what does he
Yeah.
say? I'd never met a man I didn't like or couldn't learn something from. I think we'd be hard pressed to kind of find people that they may say it, but today, how do you carry that forward and how do you encourage leaders? Because it's such incredible lessons as far as communication.
well, let me give you a couple of things. I'm going to read these so I make sure that I get it word for word the way Will wrote these. In terms of humor, he said, every gag that I tell, every joke, must be based on truth. No matter how much I may exaggerate it, it must have a certain amount of truth. The remark that you make must be founded on facts.
Mm,
You can exaggerate and make it ridiculous, but it must have plain facts in it.
wow.
And then when you do that, you'll hear the audience say, well, that was pretty near right.
Right.
Uh, another comment was, I've always noticed that people will never laugh at anything that's not based on truth. Um, I'm not sure that's still true for everybody today, but that's it.
In a
And
purist. Yeah.
professional speakers follow that. I hear funny stories, and yeah, they all add exaggerated things, and I do that sometimes, as Will Rogers today. Uh, but everything's based on a fact. You don't go away and tell something that's totally opposite.
hmm And what you mentioned in the book, and especially for those of you in leadership or speaking, Jennifer, all of us, myself, I love that he had these saver line or jokes. He had these in his pocket, which is brilliant as a speaker. Can you share one that still gets a laugh that you tend to use it even 100 years later, just still slays?
You asking Randall?
Yeah, Randall.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he
Oh, I was
does
like,
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm
like,
sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, the one I don't use this because I don't really do the rope tricks that Will did, but and he wrote down about 10 of these typed out, so he was prepared ahead of time for extemporaneous
Nice.
saber
Yes.
lines. One was when he was doing a rope trick and he messed it up. He said, "Well, I got all my feet through it except for one." Uh, and uh, and so that's an example. And these saver lines usually get bigger laughs than the
Yeah.
original joke. So you Will could add two or three lines to a funny story.
Yeah. And it's so important because the life-changing classic really shows because you think about that, his humor, his theatrical nature, but it also goes into his generous and giving heart and what drove all that. Like you said, the grounding of truth. Jennifer, what do you think? When you go talk about him, what do people seem to quote or remember most about him?
well, it got kind of goes back what I was saying earlier, the older generations, know so many of his quotes and look forward to seeing them in newspapers that are published still today
Mm,
around the country. But, of course, I never met a man I didn't like is,
yeah.
everybody relates him to that quote. Um, so, I try to pull some out that, reflect with today, which that's not hard to do. As Randall was saying, there's so many things that you can pretty much open any of his quote books and just point your finger on it and it relates to today. As crazy as that sounds. Um, but I really, my favorite one is, live your life so that whenever you lose, you're still ahead. And I just really try. He there's never been and there never will be anyone like him that could unite
Mhm.
people from all over the world, different countries, different political views. And I don't know how he did it. He did it through humor, but he had a gift.
Yes.
And there's just nobody. The number one question I always get is who would be that person today? Well, there's nobody. I
Right.
mean, there is nobody. And he was one of a kind. Um, and I just, as I go out and do what I do, I really try not to judge people. Everybody has a story. We don't know what that story is,
Mhm.
and it's none of our business. Let just be there for them and comfort people, bring people together. Um, I see such a difference in Oklahoma from California. And so now when I travel to California, I'm trying to take some of the, hi, smile. You pass somebody on the street and you just, hi, and they look at you like you're crazy. I
Howdy.
go to the gas station in Oklahoma and it never fails, ever. You just start talking to the person at the pump next to you. I don't know how that happens, but that happened in other states, and so I'm trying to instill a little bit on that Will Rogers friendly, just try to make somebody smile and make you never know what kind of day they're having, and I have bad days too. And when somebody smiles and says hi to me walking down the street, it's like, did I know that person? No,
Mm.
but I just
Yeah.
think we all need a little kindness, and it it's not it's not something that costs money. It
Right.
doesn't. It doesn't. It's not. You don't have to have an education for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to be prominent. Anybody can make somebody feel a little bit better. And look at Will Rogers. He was just a cowboy from Indian Territory, and became the most famous person in the world.
Mhm.
And how does that happen? Yeah,
Amazing. Well, and I love
yeah,
you said he's that uniter, and there will never be another one.
no,
However, you guys have the seven leadership lessons that everybody can have. So you distill it down. It's up to people to go ahead and become a part of that. But Randall, you said he was a genius, and no doubt he was a genius, but he was also off the charts as far as emotional intelligence. Jennifer, you talk about that comforting,
Mhm.
that recognition, that seeing people, listening and admitting when you're wrong, reading and associating with smarter people. And one of the chapters is have fun, be interesting, likable, and humble, stay healthy. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
all the stuff that we teach from such a young generation on, or should be, because that's what holds the fabric of humanity together. No wonder he was such a great uniter. And you guys are teaching because again, he was taught that, and you go into his beginnings, and these skills, some of them are intrinsic, but they're also taught. And I'm
yeah.
excited that we're going to teach people about he modeled it. And you know what? You can study him and model it too. And look at Randall. He's the epitome of modeling it.
Yeah. Well, I want to give a shout out to Randall because he really is the one that came up with these chapters, and we had more, and to narrow it down. And I just left, the expertise to him in that because that's not my area. And so when we fine-tuned these seven chapters titles, and then we really dove into, defining those for Will Rogers, and Randall did so much homework, and it's everything is factual and the
Mhm.
quotes are factual. And I just reflected my opinion, from my perspective of it. But Randall really did the heart and soul and the homework, of all this, and it took a lot of time and effort. But I'm really proud to be behind something. So many things come across my desk, and people want me to put my stamp of approval on it, but they have a little bit more of the fiction than the truth, as we were talking about earlier. And you got to have some truth in there. And
Yes.
there's just often not enough truth to put my stamp on it. But this is
Smart.
100% Will Rogers. You'll love the quotes that are his, and you'll really like Randall's perspective of it. And then I hope that you'll enjoy mine.
Absolutely. Randall,
I think.
What are you thinking? What are are you taking this to your shows? Tell people where they can see you and hear you speak.
Uh, well, I have a website,
Mhm.
willrogerstoday.com. And we also have a website listed. We haven't put anything on it yet, but it's the title of the book. And I don't even remember what it is right now. But anyway, go to willrogerstoday.com and
Excellent.
we'll get you in the right place. I don't think we've used the phrase yet, servant leaders.
Mhm.
Will Rogers was a servant leader. He was
Mhm.
not a CEO like that, but that means that anybody can serve and take a leadership role. You don't have to have a title to be a
Mhm.
leader in that example. And I think that's one of the key things for the people that we're going to talk to. And to give you, I'll throw out a little tease. We've got 7 chapters, but we're working on another to add more chapters to a book. So that will be coming out sometime also. We've got so much opportunity in 2026. That's a 100th year of historic Route 66,
Mm.
referred to quite
Okay.
often as the Will Rogers Highway from Chicago to Santa Monica, California. It goes right through Claremore, Oklahoma. And so that's one thing. Of course, the U.S. 250th anniversary, Declaration of Independence. There's some new things going on at the museum in Claremore, Oklahoma. So there's all kind of opportunities, and we're putting together. We'll be speaking as a team, hopefully across the country, and sharing the wisdom and the servant leadership opportunities of Will Rogers. So
Yeah.
uh, people will look forward to seeing a beautiful great granddaughter and this guy that's 145 years old.
Oh, I love it. And what are the next events coming up? And thank you for bringing up the 2026, Randall. But what's next for you guys as people that, as I was telling people, they're like, what's the next one coming out? And they're like, Will Rogers. And they're like, let us know when it's coming out. What can our audience look forward to with you guys? Where are you going to be out and about?
Uh,
Well,
Jennifer, go ahead.
November. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, so our next big thing, November 4th was Will Rogers' birthday. And so we kick off those festivities, Halloween, October 31st, right
Excellent.
here in Claremore. And we have a whole 3 days planned. We'll be kicking off a reception. We're bringing for the first time in over 20 years the Will Rogers Medallion Awards, which is very prestigious book awards here to Oklahoma from Fort Worth, and we're very excited for that. So you can go to willrogers.com and learn all about how to sign up to come to that. We have a full day of events. We have a Will Rogers parade that Saturday, November 1st. The Pocahontas Club, who just honors Will Rogers, has a wreath lane here at the tomb and events all day. Just you can just follow the website for all kinds of upcoming events. So that'll really be kicking off, and then as Randall said, we're getting ready to undergo an $18 million restoration of the Will Rogers Memorial Museum here in Claremore. And we're really excited about that. We're hoping to break ground in the early spring of 26. Like Randall said, the 100th anniversary of Route 66, aka the Will Rogers Highway. The whole year of 2026 you're going to hear so much about road trips. And then, of course, we are going to be working on the future of Will Rogers State Historic Park in
Yeah.
Pacific Palisades. And you can again follow the website and learn more about that. So there's a lot in the world of Will coming up. We're working on a movie by a book written by Jim Stovall, Will to Win, that looks to go into production also in early 2026.
Mhm.
There's a lot happening in the world of Will Rogers right now.
I love it. World of Will. Wow, I love
Yes, the
that.
world of Will. Yes,
Excellent. And I loved Jennifer when you talked about things coming across your desk, and I'm sure you get quite a lot of it. This is, we're all about leadership. We're all about stories, but again, we're all about application. And so this really is distilled down to the core essence, the what made Will and what makes you to be able to have that touch point, that
yeah,
high touch point. But he was, like you said, he was a pilot. He was also very technically very savvy
yeah,
with everything too. So I just love it. So for our leaders and emerging leaders and aspiring leaders out there, how we learn how to do it is by reading about the greats. So
yeah.
again, you two, I am just so honored to add this as a cowgirl. Charles was a cowboy. In my mind, I'm out in New Mexico or the Midwest, running the horses right now. So it's just a real honor with you both, and I hope that this goes far. And
Me too.
thank you for the privilege of being a little part of the Will Rogers legacy.
Well, it might be small, but it's mighty. That book is mighty.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. And the next one, and
Yeah,
2026, and getting out there. Love Oklahoma City and
yeah.
out the Midwest. So I'd love to get back out
Come
and see you
come
both.
see us in Oklahoma. I invite everybody to come see me in Oklahoma.
That's exciting. Any last minute things that we haven't covered on this that you would like to share with our listeners? Randall,
I
anything
can't think of
else?
anything.
Just a privilege after all these years, 20, getting close to 30 years of pretending to be the authentic Will Rogers. It gets more fun all the time, and I'm just so excited about having this little book and the opportunity to pair up with my favorite great granddaughter and share more of Will Rogers' wisdom and wit
Yeah.
across the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Jennifer,
fun. We're gonna
anything
have
for,
fun.
yeah?
Yeah.
I welcome the comments from people. I can't wait to see and read the comments from people. I really invite people to share their feelings and thoughts after reading it. I welcome that.
And you guys know, get them on the website, order a bunch, give them away. They're wonderful gifts for
Yeah.
people
Oh
that are
yeah.
interested in this, and even somebody that just doesn't know. But like I said, these leadership principles are incredible for anybody at any
Yeah.
age and any stage. That's what it's all about. And you'll also learn about one of our great icons in American history.
They're the perfect stocking
They
stuffer.
are the perfect.
And it's less than 100 days till Christmas.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, you two. Well, Jennifer and Randall, it's been a long time coming.
Thank you.
And again, honored. I'm excited. I am as proud of it as you are, and just thrilled to add it to the canon. The little box of 37 life-changing classics
Yay.
to put this on the top is just it's a
Well,
real
thank you
gem.
for including us, Tracy. You've been a great part of the journey. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you to you both. And never forget, as Charlie Tremendous Jones said, because he heard it first from Will Rogers, you're going to be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. You just met the tremendous Randall Reeder and Jennifer Rogers, and then you can meet Will Rogers and read this tremendous book. It's out. If you're watching this video, it is now live. Come on over to Tremendous Leadership and get a whole bunch of copies for yourself and some friends you want to share it with. All right, everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Yeah.